Healing the subconscious mind, reprogramming deep beliefs, trauma, and emotional blocks. This is True Awakening Channel. Introduction. Right now, as you listen to these words, there are invisible forces shaping your reality. They are not outside of you. They are within you, running beneath the surface of your awareness. They determine how you feel, how you react, what you believe is possible, and what you think you deserve. These forces are not mysterious. They are patterns, programs written into your subconscious mind long before you had the power to question them. Most people live their entire lives controlled by beliefs they did not consciously choose. They repeat the same emotional reactions, attract the same kinds of relationships, encounter the same obstacles, and wonder why nothing changes despite their efforts. The reason is simple: they are trying to change their lives from the conscious mind while the subconscious mind runs the show. This audiobook is about uncovering what lies beneath. It is about understanding how your subconscious mind was formed, how it holds trauma and limiting beliefs, and most importantly, how you can reprogram it to align with your true nature. This is not about positive thinking or surface-level affirmations. This is about deep transformation, about healing the root so that everything above it can change naturally. If you have ever felt stuck, triggered without understanding why, or trapped in patterns you cannot seem to break, this information will give you clarity. And more than clarity, it will give you a path forward. Let us begin. Chapter 1: Understanding the Subconscious Mind. What is the subconscious mind? Your mind operates on two levels, the conscious and the subconscious. The conscious mind is what you are aware of right now. It is the part of you that thinks, analyzes, makes decisions, and engages with the present moment. It is logical, deliberate, and active when you are awake and focused. The subconscious mind, on the other hand, operates below your awareness. It is the storage center for everything you have ever experienced, every memory, every emotion, every belief you formed about yourself and the world. It does not think or reason. It simply records and replays. It is like a vast database that runs automatically in the background, influencing your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors without you realizing it. Here is the critical point: the subconscious mind is far more powerful than the conscious mind. Scientists estimate that the subconscious controls approximately 95% of your daily thoughts and actions. That means only 5% of your life is directed by your conscious awareness. The rest is automatic, driven by programming that was installed years ago, often in childhood. This is why willpower alone rarely creates lasting change. You may consciously decide to think differently, act differently, or feel differently, but if your subconscious programming contradicts that decision, the subconscious will win. It always does. It is stronger, faster, and it never stops running. The difference between conscious and subconscious. The conscious mind is present-focused. It can observe, question, and make new choices. It is the seat of your awareness and your ability to change. The subconscious mind, however, is past-focused. It relies on what has already been learned and experienced. It takes what happened before and assumes it will happen again. It does not distinguish between past and present. It only knows repetition. For example, if you were criticized repeatedly as a child, your subconscious recorded that experience and formed a belief: I am not good enough. Now, as an adult, even when someone offers constructive feedback, your subconscious may interpret it as criticism and trigger the same emotional response you felt as a child. This happens instantly, before your conscious mind can intervene. You feel the hurt, the shame, the defensiveness, and you react from that place. This is not a weakness. It is simply how the mind works. The subconscious is designed to protect you by recognizing patterns and responding quickly. But when those patterns are based on old wounds and false beliefs, they no longer serve you. They keep you trapped in outdated responses that do not reflect who you truly are. How the subconscious is formed. The subconscious mind is formed primarily during the first 7 years of life. During this period, your brain is in a highly receptive state. You are absorbing everything around you, your parents' emotions, the way people speak to you, the behaviors you witness, the environment you grow up in. You do not have the ability to filter or question what you are taking in. You simply accept it as truth. If you grew up in a loving, supportive environment where you felt safe and valued, your subconscious likely formed beliefs that support your well-being. I am loved. I am safe. I am capable. But if you experienced neglect, criticism, inconsistency, or trauma, your subconscious formed beliefs designed to help you survive. I must be perfect to be loved. I cannot trust others. I am not enough. These beliefs are not based on objective reality. They are based on a child's interpretation of their experiences. A child does not have the wisdom to understand that a parent's anger may have nothing to do with them, or that neglect is a reflection of the parent's limitations, not the child's worth. The child simply concludes, something is wrong with me. And that conclusion becomes a core belief. It sinks into the subconscious and becomes the lens through which all future experiences are filtered. It shapes how you see yourself, how you relate to others, and what you believe is possible for your life. The role of repetition and emotion. The subconscious learns through repetition and emotion. When something happens once, it may not leave a lasting mark. But when something happens repeatedly, or when it is accompanied by strong emotion, the subconscious pays attention. It says, this is important. Remember this. This is why childhood experiences are so formative. A single event may not define you, but repeated experiences create patterns. If you were praised for being quiet and obedient, you learn to suppress your voice. If you were punished for showing emotion, you learn to shut down your feelings. If you were abandoned or rejected, you learn that connection is unsafe. And these lessons were reinforced by emotion. Fear, shame, sadness, and anger are powerful teachers. When an experience is emotionally charged, it is encoded more deeply into the subconscious. This is why traumatic events can have such a lasting impact. The intensity of the emotion ensures that the memory, and the belief attached to it, stays with you. Even seemingly small experiences can create lasting beliefs if they are repeated often enough. A parent who says, "You are so sensitive," may not intend harm, but if that message is repeated throughout childhood, the child may grow up believing that their sensitivity is a flaw. They may spend their life trying to harden themselves, disconnecting from their natural emotional depth. This is how the subconscious is built, layer by layer, experience by experience, belief by belief. And once these patterns are established, they run automatically. They become the invisible framework of your life. Chapter 2: How Trauma and Conditioning Create Subconscious Blocks. What is a subconscious block? A subconscious block is a belief or emotional pattern stored in the subconscious that prevents you from moving forward. It is a limitation that you may not even be aware of, but it shapes your behavior, your emotions, and your perception of reality. These blocks often sound like internal statements: I am not worthy of love. I will never be successful. People always leave me. It is not safe to be seen. I have to do everything myself. You may not consciously think these thoughts, but they influence your actions. They create resistance, fear, and self-sabotage. Subconscious blocks are not logical. They are protective mechanisms formed in response to pain. At some point in your life, these beliefs helped you cope. They kept you safe, helped you avoid rejection, or allowed you to make sense of a confusing situation. But what once protected you now limits you. The belief that served you as a child may be the very thing holding you back as an adult. How trauma shapes the subconscious. Trauma does not have to be extreme to leave a mark. Yes, major events, abuse, loss, violence, certainly create deep wounds. But trauma can also be subtle. It can be emotional neglect, inconsistent caregiving, or growing up in an environment where you did not feel seen or heard. It can be a single moment of humiliation or a series of experiences that taught you the world is not safe. When trauma occurs, especially in childhood, the nervous system goes into survival mode. The experience is overwhelming, and the mind does what it can to protect you. Sometimes this means dissociating, numbing, or shutting down emotionally. Sometimes it means creating a belief that helps you make sense of the pain. I deserve this. I am bad. I have to be perfect to avoid this happening again. These beliefs become embedded in the subconscious. And because they were formed during a time of heightened emotion and vulnerability, they carry significant weight. They are not just thoughts, they are survival strategies. Your subconscious holds onto them tightly because, at one time, they kept you safe. But trauma does not stay in the past. It lives in your body, in your nervous system, and in your subconscious mind. It creates triggers, situations, words, or feelings that remind your subconscious of the original wound. When you are triggered, you do not respond to what is happening now. You respond to what happened then. You react from the place of the hurt child, even though you are now an adult. This is why healing trauma requires more than understanding it intellectually. You must access the subconscious where the trauma is stored and release the emotional charge that keeps it active. Conditioning and repeated patterns. Conditioning is another way the subconscious is shaped. Conditioning happens when a behavior or belief is reinforced over time until it becomes automatic. This can be positive, learning to tie your shoes, drive a car, or play an instrument. But it can also be limiting. If you were conditioned to believe that success requires struggle, you may unconsciously create obstacles in your path. If you were conditioned to believe that vulnerability is weakness, you may push people away even when you long for connection. If you were conditioned to prioritize others' needs over your own, you may feel guilty every time you set a boundary. Conditioning does not require trauma. It simply requires repetition. And once a pattern is conditioned into the subconscious, it becomes your default setting. You do not choose it, it chooses you. This is why people often repeat the same relationship dynamics, career struggles, or emotional patterns throughout their lives. They are not consciously choosing these outcomes. They are simply running on autopilot, guided by subconscious programming that was never questioned or updated. How subconscious beliefs create your reality. Your subconscious beliefs do not just affect how you feel, they shape what you perceive and what you experience. This is because your beliefs act as filters. They determine what you notice, what you expect, and how you interpret events. If you believe, deep down, that you are unworthy of love, you will unconsciously seek out evidence to confirm that belief. You may overlook people who genuinely care about you and focus on those who are unavailable or critical. You may interpret neutral actions as rejection. You may sabotage healthy relationships because they do not match your internal programming. This is not because you are broken. It is because the subconscious seeks consistency. It wants to confirm what it already knows. Even if that belief causes pain, it feels familiar. And to the subconscious, familiar equals safe. This is how subconscious blocks keep you stuck. They create a loop: your belief shapes your perception shapes your behavior, and your behavior reinforces your belief. The cycle continues until you become aware of it and choose to break it. Chapter 3: Recognizing your subconscious patterns. The power of awareness. Healing the subconscious begins with awareness. You cannot change what you cannot see. As long as your subconscious patterns remain hidden, they will continue to control you. But the moment you bring them into the light of your conscious awareness, they begin to lose their power. Awareness is the bridge between the subconscious and the conscious mind. It allows you to observe your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors without being consumed by them. It creates space between stimulus and response, giving you the opportunity to choose a different path. This is not about judgment. It is not about criticizing yourself for having limiting beliefs or dysfunctional patterns. Awareness is neutral. It is simply seeing what is. And in that seeing, transformation becomes possible. How to identify subconscious beliefs. Your subconscious beliefs reveal themselves in several ways. The first is through your emotional reactions. When you have a strong emotional response that seems disproportionate to the situation, it is often a sign that a subconscious belief has been triggered. The emotion is not really about what just happened, it is about what that situation represents to your subconscious. For example, if someone cancels plans with you and you feel devastated, the intensity of that feeling may point to a deeper belief: people always abandon me. I am not important. The cancellation itself is not the issue. The issue is the old wound it activates. Another way to identify subconscious beliefs is by looking at your recurring patterns. What keeps showing up in your life? What situations do you find yourself in again and again? These patterns are clues. They are the subconscious expressing itself through your external reality. If you repeatedly attract partners who are emotionally unavailable, ask yourself, what belief about love or connection might I be holding? If you struggle with money no matter how hard you work, ask yourself, what belief about worthiness or abundance might be running beneath the surface? Your self-talk also reveals subconscious beliefs. Pay attention to the automatic thoughts that arise throughout the day. What do you say to yourself when you make a mistake? How do you describe yourself when you are struggling? These thoughts are not random. They are echoes of subconscious programming. The role of the body. The body holds memory. Trauma, emotion, and belief are not stored only in the mind, they are stored in the nervous system, in the tissues, in the breath. This is why you can understand something intellectually and still feel stuck. The body has not released what the mind has recognized. When you are triggered, you may notice physical sensations: tightness in the chest, a knot in the stomach, tension in the shoulders, a lump in the throat. These sensations are the body's way of communicating. They are telling you that something unresolved is present. Learning to listen to your body is a powerful tool for healing the subconscious. Instead of pushing through discomfort or distracting yourself, you pause. You bring your awareness to the sensation. You breathe into it. You ask it what it needs to tell you. Often, when you give space to a physical sensation, an emotion or memory will arise. This is the subconscious revealing itself. And when you allow that emotion or memory to be felt and witnessed, without judgment or resistance, it begins to release. Triggers as teachers. Triggers are not problems to be avoided. They are opportunities for healing. Every time you are triggered, your subconscious is showing you where there is still unresolved pain. It is giving you a chance to go deeper. Most people try to eliminate their triggers by controlling their environment or avoiding certain situations. But this approach only reinforces the block. It tells the subconscious, this is still too dangerous to face. And the pattern remains. True healing happens when you turn toward your triggers with curiosity. Instead of reacting, you pause. You ask, what is this really about? What old wound is this touching? What belief is being activated? And then you do the inner work to heal that wound and update that belief. This does not mean you should seek out triggering situations. It simply means that when they arise, you meet them with awareness instead of avoidance. You use them as doorways into the subconscious. The Architecture of the Infinite, a metaphysical exploration of Kabbalistic cosmology. This is True Awakening Channel. Chapter 1. The Purpose of Kabbalah, Unveiling the Hidden Structure of Being. Kabbalah exists as the esoteric dimension of Jewish mysticism, claiming to reveal the concealed mechanics of creation itself, not merely as historical narrative, but as ongoing ontological process. Its purpose transcends devotional practice or ethical instruction. It seeks to map the very architecture through which the infinite becomes manifest, through which consciousness descends into form, and through which the seemingly separate domains of divine and material reality remain fundamentally unified. The Kabbalistic claim is audacious, that reality possesses a hidden structure, an inner grammar that governs all existence from the most subtle emanations of divine will to the densest expressions of physical matter. This structure is not arbitrary but necessary. It represents the only possible pathway through which an infinite, utterly transcendent source could give rise to finite, apparently autonomous existence without absolute contradiction. Kabbalah positions itself as the science of consciousness in its most primordial sense. It investigates how awareness itself differentiates, how unity becomes multiplicity, how the utterly simple generates the infinitely complex. The human being, possessing self-reflective consciousness, stands uniquely positioned to comprehend this process, not as external observer, but as microcosmic participant in the very drama of manifestation. To understand Kabbalah's cosmology is to understand one's own consciousness, for the two are structurally identical. Chapter 4, Reprogramming the Subconscious Mind. The Foundation, Creating Safety. Before you can reprogram the subconscious, you must create a sense of safety within your nervous system. The subconscious cannot heal when it is in survival mode. When your nervous system is dysregulated, when you are in a state of fight, flight, or freeze, the subconscious is focused on protection, not transformation. Creating safety begins with regulating your nervous system. This can be done through breathwork, grounding exercises, movement, or spending time in nature. It can also be done by cultivating environments and relationships that feel supportive and secure. As you practice regulating your nervous system, you teach your subconscious that it is safe to let go of old defenses. You signal to your body that the threat is over, and it is now safe to heal. The power of presence. Presence is the antidote to subconscious programming. The subconscious operates in the past, but presence brings you into the now. And in the now, the old beliefs lose their grip. When you are fully present, you are not reacting from memory. You are responding from awareness. You see things as they are, not as they were. This is the space where new choices become possible. Presence is cultivated through practices like mindfulness, meditation, and conscious awareness of your thoughts and sensations. It is the practice of returning to the present moment again and again, especially when your mind tries to pull you into the past or future. Over time, presence becomes a way of being. And as you live more from presence, the subconscious patterns begin to fade because they are no longer being fed by unconscious repetition. Reprogramming through repetition. Just as the subconscious was programmed through repetition, it can be reprogrammed the same way. This is not about forcing yourself to think positively or reciting affirmations you do not believe. It is about consciously installing new beliefs that align with your true nature. To reprogram the subconscious, you must first identify the belief you want to change. Be specific. Instead of a vague intention like, I want to feel better about myself, identify the exact belief, I am not good enough. Then, identify the new belief you want to install, I am inherently worthy. My value is not based on performance. Now, here is the key, you must repeat this new belief consistently, and you must do so with feeling. The subconscious responds to emotion. If you repeat a belief mechanically, without emotional resonance, it will not take root. But if you repeat it while cultivating the feeling of worthiness, while embodying that belief in your body and your energy, it will begin to integrate. This is why practices like visualization, embodiment exercises, and feeling-based affirmations are so powerful. They engage the subconscious on its own terms, through emotion and repetition. Reframing and belief replacement. Reframing is the process of changing the meaning you assign to an experience. The facts of what happened do not change, but your interpretation does. And because your subconscious is shaped by interpretation, not objective reality, reframing can create profound shifts. For example, if you experienced rejection in childhood and formed the belief, I am unlovable, you can reframe that experience by recognizing that the rejection was not about your worth, it was about the other person's capacity, limitations, or circumstances. This does not erase the pain, but it removes the false conclusion. It allows you to see that what happened was painful, but it did not define your value. And that shift in understanding changes the subconscious narrative. Belief replacement takes reframing a step further. Once you have identified a limiting belief and reframed the experience that created it, you consciously install a new belief to replace it. You do not just remove the old belief, you fill the space with something true. This new belief must be believable. If you have spent your life believing, I am unworthy, you cannot suddenly jump to, I am perfect and everyone loves me. Your subconscious will reject it. Instead, you choose a bridge belief, I am learning to see my worth. I am open to experiencing my value. Over time, as you reinforce this new belief through repetition, feeling, and action, it becomes the new subconscious program. Inner child healing. Many of your subconscious beliefs were formed when you were a child. And those beliefs are often held by the part of you that experienced the original wound, your inner child. Inner child healing is the practice of connecting with the younger version of yourself that is still carrying pain, fear, or unmet needs. This is not a metaphor. There is a part of your psyche that is still operating from the perspective of that child, still trying to get the love, safety, or validation it never received. When you engage in inner child work, you bring your adult awareness to that wounded part of you. You speak to it with compassion. You reassure it. You give it what it needed then but did not receive. This can be done through visualization, journaling, or simply sitting quietly and bringing your attention inward. You ask your inner child what it needs to hear. You listen. You offer love, comfort, and presence. As you heal your inner child, the subconscious beliefs formed during childhood begin to soften. The wounds begin to close. And you reclaim the parts of yourself that were frozen in pain. Somatic release. Because the subconscious is stored in the body, healing often requires somatic release, releasing the emotional and energetic charge held in the tissues and nervous system. This can be done through practices like breath work, movement, shaking, or body work. It can also happen spontaneously when you allow yourself to fully feel an emotion without suppressing it. When you give yourself permission to cry, to shake, to express anger in a safe way, you are releasing what the body has been holding. And as the emotional charge is released, the subconscious belief attached to it loses its power. Somatic release is not always comfortable, but it is deeply healing. It is the body's natural way of completing the stress response and returning to a state of balance. Living from a new identity. Ultimately, reprogramming the subconscious is about stepping into a new identity. It is not just about changing isolated beliefs, it is about changing who you understand yourself to be. Your subconscious holds an identity, a collection of beliefs about who you are, what you are capable of, and how you relate to the world. As long as your actions and choices are filtered through an old identity, one based on woundedness, limitation, or fear, your external reality will reflect that identity. But when you begin to embody a new identity, one rooted in your true self, everything shifts. You start making different choices. You respond to life differently. You show up differently. And your external reality begins to align with this new internal state. Living from a new identity requires consistency. You cannot just think about it, you must live it. You must make choices that reflect your new identity, even when it feels uncomfortable. You must act as the person you are becoming, not the person you were. Over time, this new identity becomes natural. It stops feeling like something you are trying to be and becomes simply who you are. And that is when the transformation is complete. Chapter 5. Dissolving emotional blocks. What are emotional blocks? Emotional blocks are places where energy is stuck. They are unprocessed emotions that you have pushed down, avoided, or suppressed. These emotions do not disappear, they remain in your system, creating tension, resistance, and disconnection. Common emotional blocks include unresolved grief, suppressed anger, shame, fear, and guilt. These emotions are often rooted in past experiences, and they continue to influence your present until they are fully felt and released. Emotional blocks create barriers in your life. They prevent you from feeling joy, connection, and peace. They cloud your perception and keep you reactive. They consume energy that could be used for growth, creativity, and presence. Why we avoid feeling. Most people avoid feeling difficult emotions because they were taught, directly or indirectly, that these emotions are dangerous, unacceptable, or too much. Perhaps you were told not to cry, not to be angry, or to stop being so sensitive. Perhaps you learned that expressing emotion led to punishment, rejection, or abandonment. So you learned to push your feelings down. You learned to distract yourself, numb yourself, or rationalize your emotions away. And while this may have helped you survive in the moment, it created a backlog of unprocessed emotion in your subconscious. The problem is that unfelt emotions do not go away. They accumulate. And over time, they create a heaviness, a numbness, or a constant undercurrent of anxiety or sadness that you cannot quite explain. The practice of feeling. Healing emotional blocks requires learning to feel again. Not thinking about your feelings, not analyzing them, but actually feeling them in your body. This begins with creating space. You sit quietly, without distraction. You bring your awareness inward. And you ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? At first, you may not know. You may feel numb or disconnected. That is okay.